TV screens.
Okay. Well, the reason that we focused on pixels, sorry, the pun, is because we needed to draw a line in the sand where we said something went icky.
Well, the technology is pixel-based. There isn't any question about that.
Is there any other, I mean, he's right, pixels, schmixels, is there any other way to draw that line in the sand? And just use pixels as one embodiment, and is there a way to define the way you would pre-pack an image when it's going to be displayed on a TV or on a display in terms of raster? Or anything else that you can think of, you know? What we're doing is pre-packing sufficient information so that no two picture elements, whatever the heck they are displaying the same piece of information, right?
Right. Well, of course, the trap is as soon as you get into the digital world, you're basically in a bit image format, unless you use a more complex method, which basically is you describe.
Which is vector-based.
Which is vector-based, where you describe line segments as vectors, but that's very, very, very much more complex, and it does not lend itself at all to the kind of imagery that we're dealing with here. It just doesn't work.
And it wouldn't pixelate, obviously, when you magnify it.
Oh, we have other problems.
But you'd have other problems, right?
We have other problems.
But we're not worried about covering vector-based systems in this invention, right?
But should we limit ourselves? We don't limit ourselves either, do we?
I'm thinking that a court could hold that you are, yeah, because we're talking pixels all over the place. We've defined some of the claims in terms of how to draw that line in the sand in terms of number of pixels versus what's displayed versus what's pre-packed in. And maybe the whole string of claims wouldn't make sense unless you were talking in terms of pixels or picture elements. Maybe we don't have the word pixel in every claim, but my point is that...
And is there any way to do it vector-based?
Yeah, is there a generic way? Well, I'm not sure you want to do it vector-based because now we can't draw the line in the sand with respect to...
I was thinking a separate filing if there was a way.
Yeah, but I'm thinking of... you brought up a good point. We're thinking pixels or a digitized image. Technically, a photograph is grains.
Right.
Is there a grain-based quality factor that we can tap onto? Not really.
No, not really. I think the closest, the part of that plays is when you do the enlargement of the source photo image.
Now, maybe we should talk data elements. Is there a...
That's the word I liked versus
instead of
I use data, additional data.
Yeah, but this is now part of the big difference.
Formulas. You can't.
No,
create a
I
formula
understand
with
that.
data.
I understand
In terms of
that.
the prior art school.
But we could use data elements with pixels being an exemplary method for using data elements. Here's one example of a data element. It's a pixel.
Yeah, the problem with that, though, is somebody could find a piece of prior art that uses the data for vector-based.
Okay, then we're beat on vector-based. If
it's prior art, if it's done 10 years ago, vector-based, and you're saying in your spec that your claim language, data elements covered, is broad enough to cover pixel, vector-based, and everything, your claim now reads on the prior art, and your patent will be invalid. It could be interpreted that way.
Were we ever able to do it vector-based?
Well, there are certain things which you can do vector-based.
They can't do pixel-based?
That you can do pixel-based as well as vector-based.
So we got to be careful that they can't cross that same line.
Certain kind of graphics are done in vector-based. For instance, AutoCAD works on a vector-based system. CAD programs are typically vector-based.
But does the concept of your invention of pre-packing the number of picture elements so you can zoom it and pan it, does that have anything to do with vector-based systems?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
I mean, it really doesn't. Vector-based systems don't play here, and I don't think the data elements buy you a thing.
I think it could buy you trouble.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. We
It's a good thought. I'm trying to broaden it, and we'll keep that in mind.
Well, my question is, so does this cover if you could do it on a TV through a set-top box?
And I thought it did until...
That's what I was after, was instead of, I didn't know if if a pixel is involved in a TV,
not in a direct sense.
in the display sense, though.
Explain that to us.
Because
I think there's a distinction between...
like we do in a conference room.
Yeah, but I told you that. What you do,
And more color.
everything is carried up to a scan converter, which is simply a translation medium to translate from pixels into a raster.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so you can display on a laptop, and then it's direct mapping, pixel for pixel.
Right. Or you can convert it to whatever you want.
Right. That's right. You can convert it to NTSC or your PAL or CCAM or
Any
HDTV.
out there. Right. Or any display.
I think
What about a game?
I think as we look through this, we've
Would
said
that cover a game that you
we've said
could
that it
not
needs
drive?
to be
Okay.
we said that it needs to be
Any kind of a display device.
in its invention. It's a calculation based on pixels, and we just need to be careful that the way this is worded doesn't preclude us from displaying it on a non-pixel-based system.
No, that's what he just said.
I know,
Because
but I'm
it's
just
being
saying
converted
in the
by
wordage
pixel.
here, because we ran into it a number of times. As we all look at it together, let's just be cognizant of that.
Yeah, absolutely. When we go through, we'll all keep an eye out for it. But when you say a non-pixel-based system is a raster system, I really don't agree with that. A raster is derived from the picture elements, right?
From the pixels.
Right.
That's what Brian just said.
Yeah.
So we can convert the pixels to any display medium we want.
Yeah, but even if you look at when we get to some of the claims, when you look at the resolution of the monitors, they talk about pixels.
Well, that's what I'm concerned about a little bit.
Because what they're referencing when they talk about pixels on a monitor, they're really referencing the scan buffer that scans it out to the monitor, and it's not a representation of the inherently within the monitor itself.
Oh, okay.
The monitor has no pixels, but the monitor has a shadow mask,
Right.
which depending on the monitor technology, whether it's a Sony or non-Sony. Sony has an aperture grill, but they have a dot matrix, three-color dot matrix, which has no direct connection with a bit.
Oh, really? No association to the pixel elements coming in?
None whatsoever. Standard TV tube, a 17-inch TV tube has a dot spacing of 0.049 inches, and a good display tube has got one at down around 0.26, 27, 28, 0.027, 26,
This ones are even lower now, too.
and for higher resolution, but it's what is visually higher resolution, not necessarily what your
You're absolutely right, because
what your scan buffer has.
you don't turn the screen, the gun on and off for each pixel.
Right. It's a continuous beam scan,
Right.
and you're modulating the beams.
So I think you're right. The best we can do is keep that in mind when we talk about the language to converting this over to television display stuff.
On this page, I did have an additional comment on line 18 and 19,
Okay.
where we talk about ideal image quality requiring a minimum of bandwidth or a minimum bandwidth for transmission. And all we're saying here is, instead of a limited bandwidth, but it works regardless of the bandwidth, but it has less demand on bandwidth.
Okay.
But let me ask you this. Let's take bandwidth out of the equation and just say you play our image off your hard drive. It's still cool. Still has all the features we're patenting. Why do I even care about a limited bandwidth? Why do I care that statement be there at all?
Do you have any knowledge that,
No, I have no knowledge that in prior art you could play it off your hard drive any differently. People did not say to me, oh, what you did's cool because you can play it over network. They said, it's cool whether I play it off my hard drive. And by the way, in the end, the file is on your hard drive, even if you had a 2400 baud modem. The only difference is you'd have to wait 11 minutes to get the cool image.
Right.
The coolness did not decrease by
Right.
the time it took to download the image.
Okay, again, we'll keep that in mind. I believe it's covered if when we claim the digital image file, because I don't think the digital image file claims pertain to a network.
None of it should pertain to a network, really. It's an added benefit that we're able to transmit these rich pictures over a limited bandwidth network, but it is nothing even close to dependent or part of the coolness of the invention.
Can I take a counter position?
Sure.
The reason that you would want, first of all, you have to describe the best mode of your invention. There's no question we have to leave
That's fine.
network in there.
Okay.
And the more stuff you leave in there, the better it is for us.
As long as we're not limited to it.
The claims are what defines what's limited. But again, if we are so broad brush in the claims are interpreted by the language in the school.
Well, don't be broad here. If you want to be broad, it could be your hard drive, or it could be over a network. It doesn't matter.
Right.
So
the only
broad
problem would be is if the digital file that we're claiming in some claim number 29 or whatever, if the wording of that claim says uploading, it says transferring data, and that would mean over an internet. And the spec, we come back and say that means over the internet or
your
hard drive.
Yes, I agree. That's why I put in some places upload, download. I don't care what you call it.
Okay.
Don't limit us to download,
No.
where I see in some places.
Okay, that patent issues. 3 years down the road, you sue your closest competitor. They had a guy that just came out of the print industry, and they have been downloading images in print off of hard drives for photo processing applications for the past 20 years. He comes out with one article. Your claim directly reads on it because it's off the hard drive now, because you have interpreted that claim to mean off a network. Your claim's dead. Okay?
But no, but that's not... But
Now you run to claim 2, which is dependent on 1, which is going to say, oh, it's over, by the way, it's over a network.
But it doesn't have to be.
Claim 2 will have to say that, yeah, because otherwise your patent will fall, Eliot.
Why?
What?
Well, my question is...
Well, why will it fall?
Yeah, let's stick to the invention.
So what he's saying is, let me see if I can... Claim 1 is as broad as possible.
Okay.
Now, if something happens to lay on claim 1 in prior art,
Right.
you bypass that by going to claim 2, which reads on claim 1, which further defines claim 1, which takes you out of the conflict situation and into clean air.
Right. You've narrowed the scope of your part of this technology world, the part that's protected, but you want to make sure that part is over what your business is. Okay?
Well, my business, you see, my business doesn't need to involve a network. I could send somebody a CD of their hotel properties, like Hyatt,
Sure.
and say, here, you still have all the cool effects of my digital imaging product.
But claim 1 doesn't say anything about a network.
Okay, that's all I'm saying, Brian.
Claim 1 doesn't have it.
As long as you're not limiting me to a network.
Claim 1 doesn't. We did that deliberately.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm going to talk about that when we get to claims.
Okay.
We'll talk about that again when we get there. But again, my point is you got to be careful about what you say in the spec, because the way claims are interpreted is by referring to the spec. When you say providing a digital image file, that doesn't mean much in the claim. The guy's going to go read the spec, see how you did it, look